The evangelist looked at me and told me to leave. Not with a gentle suggestion, not with pastoral concern. She looked directly at me, pointed toward the sanctuary doors, and said loud enough for the women around me to hear, "You need to leave. Now. I'm going to tell you why. But first, let me tell you what I saw on her wrist that made my entire world stop turning. My name is Gabrielle Mason. I'm 43 years old, and I've been a member of New Covenant Baptist Church in Durham, North Carolina for 22 years. My grandmother was a founding member in 1968. My mother sang in the choir for 35 years before she passed. I was baptized in that church at 12 years old. I got married in that sanctuary. My children were dedicated at that altar. New Covenant isn't just where I worship. It's my spiritual home, my family legacy, my community. And my husband, Marcus Mason, has been a deacon there for the past 10 years. Marcus and I have been married for 18 years. We have 3 children, Jordan, 15, Micah, 12, and Naya, 8. On paper, we look like the model church family. Marcus leads men's Bible study on Wednesday nights. I coordinate the women's ministry. We sit in the 4th row every Sunday morning. We host the deacons and their wives for dinner twice a year. We look solid, steady, blessed. But for the past 6 months, something has been off. Marcus started working later. His phone was always face down. He'd take calls outside, in the car, even in the bathroom. When I'd ask about his day, he'd give vague, surface answers. When I'd try to be intimate, he was always too tired. "Just a lot going on at work, Gabby," he'd say. "Big project coming up." But Marcus works in IT for the city. There's never been a big project that required him to be unreachable for hours at a time. I tried to tell myself I was being paranoid, insecure, inventing problems where there were none, but a woman knows. Something in your spirit tells you when the man you've built a life with is building something else somewhere else. I prayed about it. I fasted. I asked God to either remove the suspicion or reveal the truth. And then, Women's Empowerment Weekend came. Every year in October, New Covenant hosts a 3-day women's conference, Friday night through Sunday afternoon. We bring in a guest speaker, usually a well-known woman preacher or evangelist. The sanctuary fills with women from our church and surrounding churches. It's powerful, anointed, transformative. This year, Pastor Williams announced that evangelist Dr. Simone Collier would be our keynote speaker. I'd never heard of her, but when I looked her up online, I was impressed. She was 40 years old, beautiful, polished, and apparently anointed. She had her own ministry, Daughters of Destiny International. She traveled the country preaching at conferences, revivals, women's events. Her website showed her in designer suits, standing in front of massive crowds, laying hands on women, prophesying. She looked legitimate, credentialed, blessed. The conference started on Friday night, October 18, 2024. The theme was Breaking Chains, Walking in Freedom. I arrived early to help set up. We decorated the sanctuary with purple and gold banners, set up tables in the fellowship hall for the book signing, created welcome packets for all registered attendees. Marcus had kissed me that morning and said, "I know you'll be busy all weekend. I'll handle the kids. You just focus on being blessed." I remember thinking how sweet that was, how supportive. Looking back, I realize he was relieved I'd be occupied and out of his way. Evangelist Collier arrived at 6:30 p.m. I was in the fellowship hall when she walked in with her armor bearer, a young woman who carried her Bible, her purse, and a garment bag. Evangelist Collier was stunning. Tall, slender, caramel skin, long burgundy hair in perfect waves. She wore a cream-colored suit with gold jewelry. She moved like royalty, spoke with the kind of authority that makes you want to listen. Pastor Williams and First Lady Williams greeted her warmly. They took her to the pastor's study to pray before service. The sanctuary filled quickly. By 7 p.m., we had nearly 300 women packed in. The energy was high. The worship was powerful. When Evangelist Collier took the platform, she commanded attention immediately. "Good evening, daughters of the King," she said, her voice rich and melodic. I'm so honored to be here at New Covenant. The Lord has already told me there are women in this room who are about to be set free from things they've been bound by for years. Chains are breaking tonight. The women erupted in applause and praise. She preached for an hour. It was good, biblical, powerful. She talked about breaking generational curses, rejecting the spirit of fear, walking in your God-given authority. I felt blessed, encouraged, ready for breakthrough. After service, there was a book signing in the fellowship hall. I'd purchased her book, Unchained, Living Free in Christ, and I stood in line with about 50 other women to get it signed. When I reached the front of the line, I handed her my book with a smile. Thank you so much for that word, Evangelist Collier. It really blessed me. She looked up at me, and for just a moment, I saw something flash across her face. Something like surprise, or recognition, or concern. But she recovered quickly, signed my book, and handed it back with a practiced smile. Bless you, sister. I didn't think much of it at the time. I went home, checked on my sleeping children, and climbed into bed next to Marcus, who was already asleep, or pretending to be. Saturday morning, the conference resumed at 9 a.m. with a workshop on spiritual warfare. Evangelist Collier taught again. It was excellent. During the lunch break, I was in the ladies' room washing my hands when I overheard two women talking in the stalls. Girl, did you see that bracelet Evangelist Collier had on last night? The gold one with the charms. Yes, that thing was gorgeous. I wanted to ask her where she got it, but the line was too long. I dried my hands and left, not thinking anything of it. That afternoon, there was a panel discussion with Evangelist Collier and some of the women's ministry leaders from our church. I was one of the panelists. We sat on the platform, 5 of us in chairs, with Evangelist Collier in the center. We discussed topics like balancing ministry and family, dealing with spiritual attacks, supporting your husband's calling. I noticed Evangelist Collier was wearing the bracelet the women had mentioned. It was stunning, 14K gold with multiple charms, a cross, a heart, an anchor, a key. It looked expensive, custom-made, and it looked familiar. But I couldn't place why. We finished the panel and I went home to have dinner with my family. Marcus was pleasant, attentive. He asked about the conference, complimented my outfit, helped the kids with homework. Everything seemed fine, but that bracelet kept nagging at me. Why did it look familiar? Sunday morning came, the final day of the conference. It started at 10 a.m. with worship and prayer, followed by Evangelist Collier's closing message. I wore a navy blue dress with gold accessories. I sat in my usual spot, 4th row, right side. Marcus sat next to me. The kids were in children's church. Evangelist Collier took the platform wearing an elegant white suit with gold buttons, and on her left wrist, she wore the bracelet again. The service began. The worship was powerful. Women were dancing, shouting, crying, worshiping. And then something happened that I will never forget as long as I live. Evangelist Collier stopped mid-song. Just stopped. The praise team kept playing, but she stood there, perfectly still, staring at something, or someone, in the congregation. She was staring at me. Then she lifted her microphone and said, hold on. The Lord is showing me something." The music stopped. The sanctuary went silent. 300 people waited. Evangelist Collier pointed directly at me. "You, in the navy blue dress, 4th row, stand up." My heart started pounding. I thought she was about to prophesy over me. "Give me a word from the Lord." I stood. She looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. Not anger, not compassion, something else. Something like guilt or fear. "What's your name?" she asked. "Gabrielle Mason," I said. My voice echoed through the silent sanctuary. Her face changed. She knew exactly who I was. And then she said the words that would change everything. "Gabrielle Mason, the Lord is telling me you need to leave this service. Right now. You need to leave." The sanctuary gasped. Collective shock rippled through the pews. I just stood there, frozen, confused. "Excuse me?" I said. "You heard me," she said. Her voice was firm now. defensive. The Lord is saying there's a spirit on you that's disrupting the atmosphere. You need to leave so we can continue in the anointing. I felt like I'd been slapped, publicly humiliated, spiritually attacked in my own church. Marcus stood up beside me. Now wait a minute. But I wasn't focused on him. I was focused on her wrist, on that bracelet. And suddenly, I knew why it looked familiar. Because I designed it. Let me pause here to recap what I've told you so far, because I know this is a lot. My name is Gabriel Mason. I've been a member of New Covenant Baptist Church in Durham for 22 years. I've been married to Marcus, a deacon, for 18 years, and we have 3 children. For 6 months, I've sensed something was off with Marcus. Late nights, secretive phone calls, distance. Our church hosted a 3-day women's conference with Evangelist Dr. Simone Collier as the guest speaker. On Sunday morning, during the closing service, Evangelist Collier stopped worship, pointed at me, and told me to leave, claiming the Lord said I had a disruptive spirit. But just before she said that, I realized she was wearing a bracelet I had designed. Now let me tell you how I knew that bracelet was mine and what happened next. 3 years ago, for our 15th wedding anniversary, I designed a custom bracelet for myself. I'd always wanted something meaningful, something that represented my faith journey. I worked with a jeweler in Raleigh. I chose each charm personally, a cross for my salvation, a heart for God's love, an anchor for hope, a key for the keys to the kingdom. It cost $2,400. Marcus gave it to me at our anniversary dinner. I wore it to church the following Sunday and got compliments all day. I wore it often. It was my favorite piece of jewelry, until 6 months ago when it disappeared. I'd looked everywhere. I thought I'd lost it. I was heartbroken. Marcus helped me search. He even suggested I check with the jeweler to see if they could make another one. "Don't worry, baby," he'd said. "We'll find it, and if we don't, I'll get you another one." I never found it. And now it was on Evangelist Simone Collier's wrist. In my church, at my women's conference. While she told me to leave, I looked at Marcus. His face had gone completely pale. Then I looked back at Evangelist Collier, and I said very calmly, very clearly, "That's my bracelet." The sanctuary erupted. Women started whispering, gasping, looking back and forth between me and the evangelist. Evangelist Collier's eyes widened. What? No, this is mine. Someone gave it to me." "Who gave it to you?" I asked. My voice was steady, strong. She didn't answer. "Who gave you my custom-designed bracelet that my husband gave me for our 15th anniversary 3 years ago? The bracelet that went missing from my home 6 months ago?" I turned to Marcus. He was staring at the floor. "Marcus," I said, "did you give her my bracelet?" The silence in that sanctuary was deafening. Marcus didn't deny it, didn't defend himself. He just stood there, looking like a man who knew he'd been caught. Pastor Williams stood up from his seat on the platform. "Sister Gabriel, Evangelist Collier, I think we need to take this to my office, now." First Lady Williams came down from the choir stand and put her arm around me. "Come on, baby, let's go." But I wasn't done. I looked at Evangelist Collier and said, "How long?" She didn't answer. "How long have you been sleeping with my husband?" She took a step back. This isn't, you're being used by the enemy." "How long?" Marcus finally spoke. His voice was broken, defeated. "Gabby, please." "Not here." "No," I said, "right here, in front of everybody, because you've been playing deacon in this church while dishonoring me. You've been laying hands on people while laying in bed with her. So tell me, how long?" He closed his eyes. 8 months. The sanctuary exploded. Women were shouting, crying, some were standing, some were sitting in shock. Pastor Williams raised his hands. Church, please, we need order." But there was no order. There was only truth. Painful, public, undeniable truth. I looked at Evangelist Collier. "You're a preacher. You travel the country teaching women about freedom and living in God's will. And you've been sleeping with a married deacon, wearing his wife's jewelry, preaching in his wife's church." Tears were streaming down her face now, but she still didn't speak. You told me to leave, I said. You told me God said I had a disruptive spirit. But the only spirit disrupting this service is the spirit of Jezebel operating through you. First Lady Williams squeezed my arm. Gabrielle, come on. Let's go to the office. I let her lead me out. Marcus followed. Pastor Williams followed. And Evangelist Collier followed. The sanctuary remained in chaos behind us. In Pastor Williams' office, the 5 of us sat in heavy silence for a long moment. Finally, Pastor Williams spoke. Is this true, Marcus? Marcus nodded. He wouldn't look at me. And you, Evangelist Collier? She was crying now, mascara running, hands shaking. I didn't know she was his wife, not at first. He told me he was separated, that his marriage was over, that they were just staying together for the kids until... That's a lie, I said. We've never been separated. We've never even talked about separation. Marcus put his head in his hands. Gabby, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. How did it start? I asked. My voice was ice. How did you meet her? He took a shaky breath. She did a conference at a church in Greensboro 8 months ago. I went with some of the other deacons. We started talking. She asked for my number to connect about ministry opportunities, and then it just escalated. You gave her my bracelet. I wanted to give her something. She admired it one day when I showed her a picture of you wearing it. I told her it was custom. She said she loved it. So I took it. You stole from me to give to your mistress, who you then brought to preach at our church. Evangelist Collier spoke up. I didn't know this was his church. I didn't know his wife would be here. When I saw you Friday night at the book signing, I realized who you were. I tried to tell Marcus we had to cancel, but he said it would look suspicious. He said what? Pastor Williams asked. She looked down. He said his wife wouldn't notice, that she was too focused on the conference to pay attention to anything else. I felt numb, hollowed out, like everything I thought was real had been a carefully constructed lie. Pastor Williams stood up. Marcus, effective immediately, you are removed from the deacon board. You will not serve in any leadership capacity in this church until you've undergone counseling, demonstrated genuine repentance, and been restored by the board. Marcus nodded. I understand. Pastor turned to Evangelist Collier. You will not preach the closing service. You will gather your things and leave this church immediately. I will not pay you the honorarium we agreed upon, and I will be contacting your ministry headquarters to report this. Her head snapped up. Pastor, please, you came into this house of God as a wolf in sheep's clothing. You violated the sacred trust of ministry. You destroyed a family. You dishonored God. There is nothing more to say. She started to argue, but Pastor Williams held up his hand. Leave, now. First Lady Williams escorted her out. It was just me, Marcus, and Pastor Williams. Gabrielle, Pastor said gently. What do you need right now? I need my husband out of my house, I said. Tonight. Marcus looked at me. Gabby. Don't, I said. Don't say my name. Don't touch me. Don't try to explain. Just pack your things and leave. He stood slowly, broken, ashamed. I love you, Gabby. I know you don't believe that right now, but... You're right, I said. I don't believe it. Because love doesn't do this. Love doesn't steal. Love doesn't lie. Love doesn't bring your mistress to preach at your wife's church while wearing your wife's jewelry. He left the office. Pastor Williams sat down next to me. Gabrielle, I am so sorry. If I had known... You couldn't have known, I said. They hid it well. What can I do? Finish the conference, I said. The women are waiting. They need a word from God. Not from her, but from you. From First Lady. From someone who actually walks in integrity. He nodded. We'll take care of it. I went home. Marcus was in our bedroom packing a suitcase. I didn't speak to him. I went to the kids' rooms and checked on them. They were still at children's church, blissfully unaware that their family was falling apart. By the time they got home, Marcus was gone. I told them Daddy had to go out of town for work. They believed me. For now. That night, I lay in bed alone and cried for the first time since it all happened. Not because I wanted Marcus back, but because I'd lost something I could never get back, my sense of safety, my trust, my certainty that the man I married was who I thought he was. The next morning, my phone was flooded with messages, texts, calls, voicemails, women from the church checking on me, offering support, sharing their own stories of betrayal and survival. My best friend, Renee, came over with food and just sat with me while I processed. "I can't believe he brought her there," she said, "to your church, to preach to you. The audacity of it," I said, "the boldness, the arrogance." "That's what happens when people think they're getting away with something," Renee said. "They get comfortable, reckless, and that's when God exposes it." She was right. If Evangelist Collier hadn't worn that bracelet, I might never have known. Marcus could have kept lying. She could have preached, collected her check, and left. The affair could have continued for months, years. But God had another plan. Let me pause here to catch you up. I confronted Evangelist Collier and Marcus in front of the entire congregation when I recognized my missing custom bracelet on her wrist. Marcus admitted they'd been having an affair for 8 months, meeting after a conference in Greensboro. Evangelist Collier claimed she didn't know I was his wife at first, but she knew when she saw me Friday night and chose to continue anyway. Pastor Williams removed Marcus from the deacon board and dismissed Evangelist Collier from the church without pay. I told Marcus to leave our home. The kids don't know yet. Now let me tell you what happened in the weeks that followed and how God brought me through. The following Sunday, I went to church. I wasn't going to hide. I wasn't going to run. This was my church, my legacy, my spiritual home. I walked in with my head high, my children beside me, my mother's strength in my bones. The sanctuary was packed. People had heard what happened. Some came out of genuine concern. Some came out of curiosity. Pastor Williams addressed it directly from the pulpit. "Church family," he said. "Last Sunday we experienced a painful disruption during our women's conference. Many of you have heard different versions of what happened. I want to set the record straight with Sister Gabrielle's permission." He looked at me. I nodded. Deacon Marcus Mason has been removed from leadership due to moral failure. He engaged in an extramarital affair with the guest speaker, Evangelist Simone Collier, who was immediately dismissed when the truth came to light. Sister Gabrielle Mason handled this situation with grace, dignity, and strength. She is a woman of God who has been wronged, and this church will stand with her, support her, and protect her as she walks through this valley. The church erupted in applause. Women stood, men stood, people were crying. I sat there, overwhelmed, not by the betrayal, but by the love, the support, the refusal to let me walk this alone. After service, at least 50 women hugged me, prayed with me, shared their stories, told me I'd survive this. Mother Jacobs, one of the church mothers who's been a member for 60 years, pulled me aside. "Baby girl," she said, "I've seen a lot in my time in this church, and I've learned one thing: God will always expose what's done in darkness. Always. You might not see it right away. It might take months or years, but it will come to light. And when it does, the person who walks in truth is the one who stands tall." "Thank you, Mother Jacobs," I whispered. She squeezed my hand. "And let me tell you something else. Don't let nobody make you feel like you have to forgive him right away. Forgiveness is a process. It takes time. And it doesn't mean you have to take him back. You forgive for you, not for him. You hear me?" I nodded. Marcus tried to reach me several times that week. Calls, texts, voicemails. He wanted to talk, to explain, to ask for another chance. I didn't respond. 2 weeks after everything happened, I filed for separation. Not divorce yet, but legal separation. I needed space, distance, time to figure out what I wanted without him in my ear trying to convince me to take him back. He moved in with his brother across town. He still came to pick up the kids for visitation. But we didn't speak beyond logistics. I also found out more about Evangelist Simone Collier. I did some digging, talked to other pastors, reached out to women who'd had her minister at their churches. Turns out, this wasn't her first affair with a married church leader. She'd been asked to leave 2 other ministries for inappropriate relationships with deacons and elders. But she'd managed to keep it quiet, moved on to the next church, the next city, the next unsuspecting congregation, until she came to New Covenant. I also found out she never actually had a doctorate, the doctor before her name was honorary from some unaccredited online ministry school. Her credentials were inflated. Her anointing was performance. Her ministry was built on image, not integrity. And she'd almost destroyed my family. But God stopped her. I started going to counseling. Not marriage counseling, just me. Individual therapy with a Christian counselor who understood the intersection of faith, betrayal, and healing. It helped a lot. I learned that what Marcus did wasn't my fault, that I didn't cause it, couldn't have prevented it, and couldn't fix it. I learned that I could grieve the loss of my marriage while also recognizing I deserved better. I learned that being strong didn't mean I couldn't cry, didn't mean I couldn't be angry, didn't mean I had to have it all together. I learned that healing isn't linear. Some days I felt fine. Some days I felt shattered. And both were okay. 3 months after everything happened, Marcus asked if we could meet to talk. I agreed. We met at a coffee shop. He looked different, thinner, older, tired. "Thank you for meeting me," he said. I didn't respond, just waited. "I've been going to counseling," he said. "Individual and with Pastor Williams. I'm working on myself, trying to figure out why I did what I did." "And?" I asked. "I was selfish," he said. "I wanted to feel desired, important. She made me feel like I was somebody special. And I got caught up in that. I betrayed you. I betrayed our family. I betrayed God. And I'm sorry. I know that's not enough, but it's the truth." "Why her?" I asked. "Why bring her to our church?" "I don't know," he said. I think part of me wanted to get caught, subconsciously, because I knew what I was doing was wrong, and I couldn't stop on my own." "So you sabotaged yourself?" "Yeah." We sat in silence for a moment. "What do you want, Marcus?" I asked. "I want you to give me another chance," he said. "I want to rebuild our marriage. Go to counseling together. Show you I can change." I looked at him. This man I'd loved for 18 years. This man who'd stood at an altar and promised to forsake all others. This man who'd held our babies and prayed over our home and led Bible studies. And I said, "No." His face fell. "Gabby, I don't trust you," I said. "And trust isn't something you rebuild in 3 months, maybe not even in 3 years. You didn't just cheat on me, Marcus. You brought your mistress into my sacred space. You gave her my jewelry. You let her humiliate me in front of my church family. You stole my peace, my security, my sense of safety, and then you let me stand there looking crazy while she told me to leave. I was wrong." "You were cruel," I said, "and I deserve better than that." "So that's it? We're done?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "I'm not saying never. I'm saying not now. I need time, space, healing, and you need to do the work on yourself without expecting me to be waiting at the finish line." He nodded slowly. "I understand. I'll always love the man I thought you were," I said. "But I don't know who you actually are. And until I figure out if I even want to know, we stay separated." I left that coffee shop feeling lighter than I had in months. 6 months later, I'm still separated, still healing, still learning who Gabrielle is outside of being Marcus's wife. I'm still at New Covenant, still coordinating women's ministry, still sitting in the 4th row, just me and my kids now. Marcus completed his counseling and has been attending a different church. He's respectful, consistent with the kids, working on himself, but we're not reconciled. And I don't know if we ever will be. And I'm okay with that, because I learned something through all of this. God's protection doesn't always look like prevention. Sometimes it looks like exposure. He didn't stop Marcus from having an affair. He didn't stop Evangelist Collier from coming to our church, but he did make sure the truth came to light in a way that was undeniable. Public. Impossible to spin or hide. He protected me by showing me who I was really married to. He protected my children by removing a toxic influence from our home. He protected our church by exposing a false prophet before she could do more damage. That bracelet, my custom-made, one-of-a-kind, $2,400 bracelet, became the instrument of revelation. God used the very thing Marcus stole from me to reveal what he was hiding from me. That's not coincidence, that's divine orchestration. And as painful as it was, I'm grateful. Because now I walk in truth. Not illusion, not pretense. Not a carefully constructed image of a perfect marriage that was rotting from the inside. I walk in truth, and the truth, as Jesus said, has set me free. Proverbs 26:26 says, "Whoever conceals hatred with lying lips and spreads slander is a fool. Though their hatred is concealed by deception, their wickedness will be exposed in the assembly." Marcus concealed his betrayal. Evangelist Collier concealed her pattern of destruction. But God exposed it. In the assembly. In front of witnesses. In a way that left no room for doubt. Not because he wanted to humiliate anyone, but because he wanted to liberate me. And he did. If you're listening to this story and you've experienced betrayal, especially in the church, especially by someone who was supposed to be trustworthy, I want you to know, you're not alone. What happened to you was wrong. It wasn't your fault. And you don't have to have it all figured out right now. Healing takes time. And it's okay to take that time. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to grieve. It's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to choose yourself. And it's okay to trust that God sees you, knows you, and will expose what needs to be exposed in His perfect timing. If this story ministered to you, would you do me a favor? Hit that like button. Let me know this resonated with you. Leave a comment. Tell me about a time when God exposed something in your life that you needed to see. Tell me how you walked through betrayal. Tell me what helped you heal. Your story matters, and someone else needs to hear it. And please subscribe to Sister Circle Stories. We're building a community of women who aren't afraid to tell the truth, even when it's painful, who walk in faith even when the ground is shaking, who believe that God is still faithful even when people aren't. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for walking with me through the pain and into the peace. May God give you strength to face whatever truth He's revealing in your life. May He give you courage to stand even when people try to make you sit down. May He give you wisdom to know the difference between reconciliation and restoration, and the discernment to know which one He's calling you to. And may He remind you that you are loved, valued, seen, and protected by a God who never sleeps, never slips, and never stops working on your behalf. Stay faithful, sisters. Stay strong. Stay true. Because the truth will always, always come to light. God bless you.